Shalom, shalom. It's your brother Malcolm. All praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh Shem Shai. Double honors unto the apostles, the true elders of all of Israel on earth today. Okay? And that is the apostles and elders of GMS, that is. And I'd like to say salutations to all you Akim that are doing this work, laboring, suffering in truth and sincerity, risking your lives and your freedom to do so, and any of you Akwaf that may be listening and learning. This is going to be the fifth and final installation of the history of the Middle East. And there were some questions on the comment board of different videos about the book. So that's basically what this whole video is going to be about. Very quick. I'm just going to do an expose on the books, the names and the titles, so that anyone wants to do the research, see the proof for themselves, they can do so. But first I'm going to read this scripture. This is Jeremiah 50 and 33. And it reads, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go, and they've never let us leave America. And like I said, and now we're a commodity to them. All right, they can tax us, they can imprison us and get free labor, still keep us in slavery. Either way, you could be a free slave walking around America, being a slave to their, and I mean their meaning they, Esau, Edom, because they're still running the show, being a slave to their crooked and wicked law system, which they break and twist their own laws every day, just so they can tax you. All right, or you can get put inside of a small cell and be a prisoner in a small prison. All right, locked in their prison houses, as in the book of Isaiah. Because America is just one big prison camp. Whether you can drive from state to state, you're still in prison, or if you can just walk back and forth in a small cell, you're still in a prison state. Okay, because they have complete and total control of you, and they could remove you from the giant prison and put you in the small one at any moment now. All right. And just to solidify the scripture that I read, first book I'm going to expose is the Indian slave trade. All right. And I'm going to hold it up slowly so you can pause it, read it, and get the name of it. It's by Alain Gallet. Okay. The Indian slave trade. And through the spirit, Yashawamba went into this book. That's how you know we're one body. But here it is on page 299. They showed you records of different Indians, so-called Indians, Native Americans, who are the Gadites of the Bible, Gad and Reuben. Okay? And it gave you a total of 51,000 that were on cargo ships. But there were millions of them that disappeared and were put away. Down here it says Charlestown, as Peter Wood incisively shows, was an Ellis Island for Africans arriving. That's bullcrap. Those were Hebrews into the New World. But it also marked a point of deportation for thousands of natives. Scholars have underestimated the size of the Indian slave trade for two reasons. There is a little record of where large numbers of Indians were shipped. All right, and I'm not going to read further into it, but one of the main places where they went was Barbados. Okay, but they weren't keeping records, and if they were, they kept them hid. Okay, turning to page 302, I read a portion of this. I'll just read up a little further. I read a portion in one of the previous videos. I believe it was part 4. Yeah, it was part 4. This is page 302. It is impossible to determine how many Indians were shipped northward. New York's and Pennsylvania's extant shipping returns do not begin until 1713. So all the things that were shipped before that, because they started shipping in what you got to think at the time frame that the Borgias were in power. The Borgias were receiving Arawak, Taino, Israelites over to the old world, man. Okay, so they ain't started to keep records until 1713. All right, and Maryland's did not include imports. We also run into the same problem of customs agents not reporting or reporting accurately the import of Indian slaves. For instance, in 1715, the Royal Anne arrived in New York with a shipment of Indian and black slaves. The number of blacks were recorded, but the number of Indians were not, but not the number of Indians. So Esau's a liar. That was also to keep that division. He knew what he was doing, that Willie Lynchism, man. Okay? Light skin against dark skin, old against young, male against female, you know? That sort of thing. The next book was that I used in this series was the Young's Dictionary Bible, because it gives an even more extensive definition of Ham than the Zondervan does. And Zondervan goes hard. This goes harder because it makes it clear that everything that was connected to Egypt and north of Egypt was the land of Canaan. And there's a scripture in the Bible which I can't think of right now. And I think it's Ezekiel. You know what? It's in Ezekiel where it says, this wasn't planned, but it just popped in my head. The Most High did that. I think it's in Ezekiel. But there's a scripture that pretty much tells you that Israel was born in Canaan. All right, that is where the Israelites came to be, in the land of Canaan. And I know it's in Ezekiel, although I can't find it right now. Okay, but it clearly tells you that they were born in Canaan. All right, and this matter of fact, I'll just read it. Definition of Ham. This is just a recap on everything we covered, so to speak. And it reads, Ham, a son of Noah, father of Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. See further on each of these four. While they may have all been dark-skinned, they were not the forefathers of the Negroid races. All right, because there were 12 of them. All right, but rather the people associated with Egypt in the north of the continent of Africa. That the Egyptians thought of Canaan as one of their own provinces into very late times. And the reason being that is because the Canaanites were Hamites, the sons of Ham, which the so-called white man will give you that the reason for slavery for the dark people was because of Ham's curse. But then when they portray Ham in their movies and in their books, they always put Ham, the Canaanites, as being white when they were not. All right, because the Egyptians were born in the land of Canaan, or came to be a nation in the land of Canaan. And here is, I'll show you once again. And I'll show you the name of the author and everything of the book as well. But here are your Canaanites, man. Okay? And when you go throughout this, you can see locks, dreadlocks, thick lips, woolly hair. There it is. And the Egyptians were known for their height. Okay? You're right. And it's funny when you look at all the pale-fleshed Egyptian images from the time when the Ptolemies took over. None of the lips and noses are knocked off. None of the white ones. Or the majority of them. But you can clearly see the Negroid features and hair type. The lips and the noses. All right? Clearly. And the slaves making the bricks for the pyramids. Now, these are artifacts from there, from the time period, okay? You can't get around that, man. The book is called Egypt, by Giorgio Ferrero. Let's put that close so you can see it. All right. Giorgio Ferrero. All right. Even on the back of it, it's showing you the pyramids. And it's showing you the dark flesh people who lived among them and that had them built. Matter of fact, we might as well, since I'm doing this, just show you the Israelites in slavery because they have it in here. And you don't see Finkelsteins and Oppenheimers and Goldsmiths or none of that. What you see are Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right? The way that they looked in the ancient world. Dark flesh. All right? So, that was that book. We're almost done here. The next one was Christopher Columbus and a participation of the Jews, the Jewish, and the Portuguese. Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. All right. Very powerful book. Was written by Mayer K. Serling, written by a Jewish guy. Basically, they told you that, that the Morenos were the secret Jews. And here's your definition of Moreno. I got it in my Bible. Might as well read it. Moreno. I'll let you read it. All right. It was a Jew or more converted to Christianity. The secret Jews, the Morenos. Those are the people who were ruling Portugal and Spain. And remember, and it also gives you the information that Christopher Columbus came to the Americas with Hebrew interpreters because he knew he was going to encounter Hebrew-speaking people. All right. This one, the next book, was Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, written by Ronald Sanders. This is the book that now costs you $1,000. All right. Like I said, I paid about $30 for this book about a little over 8 years ago, and this book in hardback is going to run you about $1,000. Okay, and here's the book that the whole lesson was centered around. Was called A History of the Middle East. That's the short title. It's a long title. A Star in the West, or the Humble Attempt to Discover the Long Lost 10 Tribes of Israel, preparatory to their return to their beloved city Jerusalem, by Elias Boudinot. All right. Okay. So there's the author. All right. And it's a reprint from 1812. It's a very old book, a reprint, and it was very incriminating. And there's still a lot that I didn't touch on. So I could even return to this series later and do it again and then just go into it some more. All right. 1812. So there are your books. There's the info. With that, I'm going to say shalom.